The NHL playoffs have started, and we are smack dab in the middle of a round one matchup. The Utah Jazz now have their draft lottery odds ahead of them, and so much more. That's all coming up in this episode of the Southern Utah Sports Report. Welcome on in, everybody. It's the Southern Utah Sports Report. My name is Caden Formaster. Thank you so much for joining me on the show today. And we are talking a lot of professional sports today. We're going to step away from the high school games for just a bit and talk about some of the professional stuff that's going on here in our neck of the woods. And of course, that means we're talking Vegas. We're talking Utah, whatever that is, whether it's Utah Mammoth, Utah Jazz, Vegas Golden Knights. Maybe we'll talk a little Raiders coming up soon with the draft coming up here in a little bit. Talking draft, NBA draft is coming up as well. So we're going to talk about that in today's episode. And in fact, maybe that's where we start. You Utah Jazz fans, now that the season's over and you're thinking, all right, we're done. Season's over. What is there to look forward to? Let me put it this way. I think there's a lot to look forward to. Number one, the team at its core is actually fairly good. Obviously, this season has been nothing but a tank job, and we all know that that is the case. The NBA knows it. The fans know it. People that aren't fans of Utah know it. Everyone knows that this season was all about tanking. And you can see that when you have all these guys who are really good, just frankly not playing for whatever reason, whether it be small surgeries, that just, corrective surgeries that, hey, you know what? Normally it's an off-season surgery, but let's just get it done right now. We saw that with Jaren Jackson Jr., for example. Larry Markkinen was out with a lot of health problems, right? Whatever it might be, and injuries and things like that. Kessler was out. That one was a little more realistic. There was good reason behind that one. But that doesn't mean that that team's not good. I do think that the team is good. I think that they really were just in a tank position. And when I say good, I'm not saying like they're going to go out there and win the playoffs. That's nowhere near what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I do think that the team has a lot of potential. The Jazz right now have so much potential, and we're going to start seeing it coming around soon. Now, here's the thing. Draft is coming up. They want to get one more piece, and this is a loaded draft, all right? This is a pretty loaded draft right now for the NBA, and I do think that we're going to start seeing some names being floated around, but again, it doesn't all really matter until we get the lottery over with. So here's the thing about the Utah Jazz. They had a top 8 protected pick. This is important for Jazz fans to understand because there was a lot of talk of this earlier. If the Jazz, for some reason in the lottery, weren't able to get a top 8 pick, it was going to go to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, the Jazz finished with a tie with the Sacramento Kings. They had a coin flip. Had they lost it, they would have had the 5th spot for draft order, meaning that the worst they could do was 9th. If that were to happen, that pick would have went to Oklahoma City Thunder. They won that coin toss, and so they will go to 4th. The worst they can do is 8th, which means no matter what happens, Utah keeps their pick in the first round of the draft. So that's a good thing. They can get anywhere from number 1 to number 8. Somewhere in between. The one thing, though, for Utah that has happened time and time again is they just don't move up in the draft. It just does not happen for Utah. I do believe it has happened maybe about a little over 15 years ago. It was the last time that the Jazz moved up in the lottery, and it wasn't really much. So can that happen again? Yeah, of course it can. Law of averages says it should happen again sooner than later. Jazz have never had the number 1 overall pick. And moving up in the draft just doesn't happen for them. If they always fall back. We saw that last year. They had some of the best odds to get that number 1 overall pick. And what happens? We picked 5th. Yeah, we saw the Jazz picking 5th. And that one still blows my mind. And I don't know. I don't want to say the NBA is rigged on that, but I will say that the draft lottery this last year has kind of put me into that position to where I think that maybe it might be a little rigged. I don't know. I don't like to say it, but it's possible. So here's how the draft odds are stacking up. So the first 3 teams, Washington Wizards, Indiana Pacers, Brooklyn Nets, they all have a 14% chance at that number 1 overall pick, which is pretty good. Utah Jazz have an 11.5, and that's right there with the Kings. That's who they had the tiebreaker with, an 11.5% chance of the number 1 overall pick. Again, with Utah being 4th in the draft order, most likely that is where they will pick, but it can change. It can fluctuate. Things can happen. So we'll see where they actually end up. Obviously, with the draft lottery still a ways out, who knows what exactly is going to be the case. If you're taking a look at some of those picks, so like top 8, as I mentioned, are where they're going to be. What does that mean for Utah, right? Well, if they get a top 3 pick, it's probably going to be one of 3 guys: Darren Peterson, AJ Demansah, and Cameron Boozer. Right now, those are your top 3 picks. It's pretty much a consensus that those will be the top 3 guys. But obviously, things can change. Once you get a guy in your building and have him working out for you, it's going to be a little bit different. But that's kind of where things are set right now. It seems like BYU's AJ Demansah is going to be the number 1 overall pick, unless I did hear that Indiana really likes Cameron Boozer. So it's possible if the Pacers get that number 1 overall pick, they might go with someone like Cameron Boozer. But we'll see. At the number 4 spots, Caleb Wilson out of North Carolina. So, again, this is a pretty deep draft. It just kind of depends on what the Jazz want to do. Do they want to stick with someone like Lauri Markkanen long term? Right now, they have a good handful of guys. It depends on who they draft to. They're looking at like a bunch of starting level guys that play the 3, which you don't want to have too many of. I mean, it's great to have guys who can be versatile, and that's a position that usually if they're playing the 3, they can maybe play like a stretch 4 or a big 2. But of course, small forward is the position that fits best for them. So as of right now, you got Ace Bailey, you got Lauri Markkanen, who are really good fits in those positions. If they draft an AJ Demansah, he really fits into that position as well. It's just honestly, so does Cam Boozer. It really just depends on where they want to go with that. I like Kingston Flemings. I think he's a very good possibility for Utah, but I won't get into the weeds with who they're going to draft just yet because the lottery hasn't happened yet. Once the lottery happens, then we'll know where they're going to be and who's potentially going to be the most available. So, but it's all good things for Utah. That might be able to be the one thing that they can do right now to put them at the next level to where they can finally make a good playoff push. Bringing in Jaren Jackson Jr. is huge. He barely touched the court in a Utah uniform, so we just haven't seen a lot from him. And once we get that lineup healthy again, I think it'll be good. Who's to say Walker Kessler sticks around as well? He wasn't extended, so we need to see what the contract situations are going to be on him. So that'll be another important thing to figure out in this offseason, which the offseason still technically for the Jazz has started, but for the NBA, moves aren't going to happen until, free agency and all that stuff. We got to wait for the draft to get here, which is the end of June. So we still have well over a month until things really get rolling with free agency and draft. So we'll get into it more, like I say, in about a month from now, which will be exciting. All right. That's Utah Jazz. We're going to put that to the side for now because, again, that's just where things are at. They for sure have their pick. That's a big thing to take away from this right now is that they're going to get a top 8 pick no matter what. And then we'll see. We'll see how it all pans out after that. All right. Let's go to the NHL for a minute. We are smack dab between 2 NHL teams, the Vegas Golden Knights, the Utah Mammoth, and the big storyline for us in Southern Utah, and I've seen people up north asking about this too. Some people are asking, hey, when it comes to St. George, who are you guys supporting? And the answer to that continues to be split. If you ask someone, you ask someone from, the Drive, Devin Dixon, if you ask him, he's a big Golden Knights fan. He's following the Knights. Why? Because when they came to town, he started covering them very heavily. And so he kind of got locked in with the Knights. However long, 9 years ago when they came into town, and he's been covering them pretty hardcore since then. And I know a lot of other people who latched on the same way he did when they first came into town. Geographically, we're closer to Las Vegas, so that makes sense as well, that somebody might say, I'm going to root for Las Vegas here. I think there's a lot of people that are casual sports fans who, even when Vegas got a team, it was kind of like, hey, that's cool. Good for Vegas. That's an exciting thing. But then you maybe didn't latch on to hockey. Then everything happens with Utah getting a team. And it was like, wait, hold up. Utah's getting a team. And it wasn't the slow burn like Vegas had, where it was like expansion talks are happening. Vegas could be getting a team. Hey, they did get a team. Here's an expansion draft. Here's all this stuff. They kind of slow burned into it. And then Utah, it was like thrust upon us. Where this time, 2 years ago, we barely found out that we were getting a team. Like, it was the tail end of the season. It was April of 2024 that we were like, by the way, we're going to have a team and they're going to be starting in Utah next fall. So when you think about it, we've been on a 2-year sprint from not even having a team to having a team in the playoffs, which is technically an expansion team. But the expansion is, it's an expansion team. Arizona shut down their operations. And by the way, Utah just bought all of their stuff, all of their people, everything. They just brought it over as part of the expansion, as opposed to a traditional expansion draft. It's weird how it all works out, the legalities of it. I don't know. But the point is, they took this crew out of Arizona that was underperforming, not making the playoffs, and ownership was not doing great, and they put them in a position to succeed. They gave them training facilities that are top-notch in the entire NHL. They gave them a fandom that's supporting them better than they were honestly getting in Arizona, and seems to be one of the better hockey towns in the NHL immediately, which is impressive because Utah is starving for professional athletics. So what does that mean for us here in St. George? We have the longevity, and I say that lightly because it hasn't even been a decade yet, and proximity of the Vegas Golden Knights. But then we also have the identity of Utah Mammoth. We live in Utah. The identity favors the Mammoth. Proximity favors the Knights. So where do you stand? Culturally, I would also say that St. George fits the Mammoth better than the Golden Knights, just because Utah culture is a very unique thing. And I feel like our culture in St. George latches on more so with Salt Lake. So that's a few things to pay attention to keep track of. I myself, I'm rooting for the Mammoth. That's me. That's the team I latched onto when they came to Vegas originally with the Vegas Golden Knights. I thought it was cool. I watched a bunch of games, and honestly, like, there's a part of me that has a fandom to the Golden Knights because I did start following it, and I learned hockey because of the Golden Knights. But I never felt like I was like a part of the group there. Fast forward to when the Mammoth come to town, and it was like, I'm in sports radio now. And I live in Utah. I've lived in Salt Lake City. And so for me, it made more sense to latch onto that team because of my personal history, my identity to Utah, and that's where I sit. But I'll be honest, I don't care which side you root for. We're in a very unique spot. We're in a very unique position to where you could root for either side, either Utah, Mammoth, or Vegas Golden Knights. And it's interesting. I'm curious to see how St. George reacts. And we got one game under our belt. Vegas won that game, and it was a physical game. Vegas absolutely came out with the intentions that it was going to be physical, and they showed it. They had more hits in that one game against Utah than they have had, I want to say, ever in a single game. It was like 50-something hits. I think their last high was in the 40s, and it was also a playoff game. This season, they averaged 30 hits a game, and it was in the 50s against Utah. So you know that it's going to be a physical game too. And I'm just going to say this. I'm very excited. I'm very excited for the remainder of this playoffs because, quite honestly, that first round was fun. They got me on the first round. They got me excited. I'm pretty stoked. I'm pretty pumped to see what the next round is and what it's going to look like. For this matchup specifically, Utah and Vegas, we are looking at the next round of it tonight, Tuesday. It's going to be 7:30. Tuesday, April 21st, 7:30 in Las Vegas. Following that, we're going to see a couple of days before it comes back again. And so Friday, August 24th, that's going to be the next available game. And that one's going to be in Utah. So we'll see if Vegas goes up 2-0 or if Utah can tie it up tonight. But that game's at 7:30 in Las Vegas tonight on ESPN2. So it's going to be fun. I'm excited about it. And yeah, hopefully you guys are too. Even if you're not a big hockey fan, this is a series to watch. There's a lot of physicality. There's fights like every 5 seconds. And it's been awesome up to this point. It's been so much fun. So that's how things are shaping up in the NHL. I said we're going to stay away from the high school sports today, but I do want to give a shout out to the college level Utah Tech Trailblazers. A couple big things happening here for the Utah Tech Trailblazers. Number one, they hired on a Utah Tech women's basketball coach. Now that Coach Gustin is moving on, they brought in Adam Wardenburg. So he's going to be joining the program as the head coach, which is a really exciting thing. So they announced that earlier today. They had a press conference and stuff earlier today with him as well. And yeah, it's going to be a really fun time. It's going to be a really exciting time for the women's basketball program, just to see what he can do. He was the assistant head coach for Air Force this most recently last season. So he's definitely been in some good programs up to this point. Did a little bit with Utah Valley as well. So that'll be awesome. Excited to have him as a part of the crew. In baseball, Utah Tech baseball last night with another great win over BYU. Now, BYU was one of these that they lost to earlier this season. They've played them a couple of times, and they lost both those times. The first time around, they lost 2-19. It was blowout in Provo. Then it was back down here. They lost 5-18. So this time around, they go back up to Provo, and they win this game 9-4. Started off really, really hot. And in the first couple of innings, they ended up going up 7-0 at the top of the second inning. And ultimately going around and winning this game, again, 9-4 was the final. So good win for Utah Tech. On the season as a whole right now, they are playing some great baseball, 27-14. Conference-wise, they're 5-1, so they're doing really well in the conference. And again, only have lost the one game. They absolutely swept Utah Valley in the WAC. That's great. They've got Cal Baptist coming up. That's going to be this weekend, and it's going to be in Riverside. They'll be back home on Tuesday, April 28th. That game's against UNLV, so keep those dates locked in. We do have some high school baseball going on tonight and tomorrow night. If you're watching this today on April 21st, we've got baseball tonight, and it's Crimson Cliffs and Snow Canyon rematch of the state championship game. Tomorrow, it's going to be Cedar at Desert Hills, so keep locked in for both of those. It's going to be fun. We've got a good week of baseball for you. And then next week, final stint for high school baseball and softball before we get into the playoffs, which is going to be so cool, so exciting. We love the playoffs here because, well, we get to cover every single game once the tournament hits, and it's a gauntlet. It's a marathon. It's a long week for us, but man, is it so much fun to get out to the ballpark, just hang out. And if you see us out and about, come say hi. We always love it if you guys stop on by and say hi. And we get a lot of appreciation from our, not necessarily our fans, but just fans of local sports. We know that you guys aren't necessarily fans of us. You're fans of the game, and we try to bring that to you. That's our job, is to bring you the stuff that you're truly a fan of. I know you probably don't care less about what I'm doing here, but you care about the sports, you care about the athletes, and that's what's cool. So, well, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Subscribe to the podcast wherever it is that you find it, whether that's in your favorite podcast app like Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever it is. Or, of course, follow us on YouTube. You can watch us over on YouTube as well. So, again, wherever it is that you find us, we're just glad that you did, and subscribe so that you can come back for more another time. I've been Caden Formaster. This is the Southern Utah Sports Report, and until next time, we'll see you.